Chapter 27. The Silence. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. St. Matthew 6:6. We have so many inquiries from our pupils for some method by which they can strengthen their will and hasten their spiritual growth that we desire to give a brief outline of the first stage of this process. We cannot emphasize too strongly the fact that there is but one way to grow, that is, according to the law of growth followed by nature. Grow as the flower grows, unconsciously but eagerly anxious to open its soul to the air. So must you press forward to open your soul to the eternal. But it must be the eternal that draws forth your strength and beauty, and not desire for growth, for in the one case you develop in the luxuriance of purity, in the other you harden by the forcible passion by personal stature. In this one paragraph is contained the great secret of all growth, and the student must grasp its significance and master it. Indeed, until the essence of the truth underlying the above direction has been mastered and incorporated into the consciousness, to attempt any practice calculated to unfold inner faculties is fraught with grave dangers. We begin this chapter, therefore, with the injunction to all our pupils to take the idea contained in the above quotation and meditate upon them until they are fully understood not as words merely, but as vital life experiences ere they attempt further advance. The student should pause here and clearly distinguish between concentration, meditation, prayer, and entertaining the silence. Concentration is focusing the attention upon a chosen object or idea. It is the first step toward accomplishing any given end, either in the physical, mental, or higher worlds. Meditation is turning over in the mind a thought or idea that you may see it from every standpoint and grasp all its phases and relations. It is an active mental process which occupies the undercurrents of your mind, even while it may be overseeing more superficial affairs. The proof that we can meditate while engaged in daily affairs is found in the fact that if we have some great joy or sorrow, it will remain in the background of our consciousness no matter what we do to distract our attention from it. Apply the same principle to your spiritual life, and make the attainment of that life your main thought and aim. Prayer is an aspiration of the soul toward the divine. It may also be a request, not for creature comforts or physical things. Answers to such prayers are but the results of mental magic, but for spiritual food, love, light, courage, etc. In fact, prayer creates a magnetic line of force which unites you with the supply. Entering the silence is an ecstatic state in which the human consciousness is transcended, and while it lasts, all sense of the personality is lost. While we teach that life itself brings to the earnest seeker all the discipline necessary to strengthen his will, and that the ruling of his life brings the most rapid spiritual growth, still it is well to have a definite time set apart each day for concentration upon the end for which he is striving. To meditate upon the above quotation, let the pupil set apart a certain time each day, preferably in the early morning, rising 10 or 15 minutes earlier if necessary, and sit in a quiet spot, in the same chair if possible, and repeat the foregoing passage with a prayer for light and understanding, and meditate upon it. Try to picture mentally the growth of a flower. Follow every step of its unfoldment. First, the teeny seed buried in the dark earth, then the force within the seed which makes it, by and by, burst through its confining shell. Let your mind enter into, in fact for the time being, become this flower. Dwell upon the period of darkness necessary while the seed is sending forth its thread-like feelers, groping everywhere in the dark and gathering nourishment from the earth. With unerring instinct, it follows the law of its being, selecting such nutrients as will assist its growth and rejecting that which is unharmonious. Follow the seedling through every phase of its growth. At each step apply the same law to your own growth. Think of the soul as planted in the darkness and loneliness of the material conditions of this earth, yet containing within it the possibility of fruition, its immortal destiny. Do not try to follow the seed through every step of its life journey at the first sitting, but meditate day after day upon one step or stage of growth, correlating yourself with it until you are sure you have mastered its lessons and have realized their application to your own spiritual growth. Above all, make the point very clear that the seed has no personal desire to grow, nor to excel some other seed, but that it is fully occupied in fulfilling the law of its being, to open its soul to the air. When you have mastered one phase of growth, you are ready to pass on to the next. And only when you have, at least in some measure, grasped all the lessons thus taught you, are you ready to enter into the silence, where you can learn from the divine and hear the voice of your higher self. the Master, whom as you thou hast not seen, but whom thou feelest. For only when the flower blooms does it open its heart to the silent power of the sun, and drink in the magnetic forces which could not be assimilated until the bloom unfolded. In the same way must the student open his heart to the Sun of Righteousness ere he is ready to learn from the voice of the silence. Let no pupil think, however, that when, through meditation, he has reached the silence, henceforth he has no need of meditation. For no one can enter the silence until by meditation he has opened his heart to the influence of the divine, as the petals of the rose open to the magnetic influence of the sun. While an effort may be made at first toward its realization, later it must become a state into which you can enter at will, shutting the door of your mind on all daily affairs and finding rest, peace, and communion, even in the midst of the turmoil of life. But remember that while aids such as concentration, breathing, etc. are helpful in their proper place, they do not of themselves cause spiritual growth. They are only aids. The growth must come from dwelling in the consciousness of the divine within you and manifesting the Christ force in the daily affairs of life. When the ability to meditate has been acquired and the pupil is ready to enter the silence, he should first spend a few moments in deep breathing, following the method called the complete breath. The greatest factor in deep breathing lies in the thought held at the time. This is the difference between deep breathing as practice for mere physical culture and for control of life currents. While the physical culturist is breathing merely for health, the occultist realizes that much more than physical health is to be attained. For through the power of breath combined with will, he can draw on the spiritual life essence which permeates the higher strata of Earth's atmosphere. By the act of consciously breathing, we correlate with this essence and draw it more completely into the body. This breath is the fundamental breath of the entire science of breath, and the student must fully acquaint himself with it and master it perfectly before he can hope to obtain proper results. To accomplish this requires attention, effort, and persistence, but it is essential to further progress along this line. When fully mastered, it will become automatic. Do not neglect or belittle it because it seems simple. The following exercise will give you a clear idea of what the complete breath is. 1. Stand or sit erect. Breathing through the nostrils, inhale steadily, first filling the lower part of the lungs. This is accomplished by the diaphragm, which is descending exerts a gentle pressure on the abdominal organs, pushing forward the front walls of the abdomen. Then fill the middle part of the lungs, lifting the chest and upper ribs. In the final movement, the lower part of the abdomen will be slightly drawn in, giving the lungs support and helping to fill the highest part of the lungs. The three movements are not separate but continuous, the entire chest being expanded in uniform movement. Avoid all jerky movements and strive to attain a steady, continuous action. 2. Retain the breath for a few seconds or heartbeats. 3. Exhale slowly in the reverse order, chest first and abdomen last. 4. Rest the same number of counts as in number 2. The rule is to inhale for a convenient number of heartbeats, 6, 8, or 10, retain the breath half this number, make the exhalation the same length as the inhalation, and the rest between breath and the number of counts as in 2. During the inhalation, hold the thought that you are breathing in the forces of love, strength, courage, and purity, or any other virtues you desire. That during the pause they are filling you full to overflowing, and that during the outbreathing you are sending out help, comfort, health, and love to all mankind. Think of what you need as flowing indirect from the divine, thus making a direct line of communication over which the divine can reach you. Dwell upon the fact that this divine force which flows through you is not your personal force, and therefore when you breathe out, determine that you will send out only the force of the divine, untainted by your personality. Realize that you are thus creating a reservoir of power, that you can draw upon it in any unlimited quantities as a seed draws to itself the power of the eternal, and by assimilating it grows naturally, yet does not monopolize that power. Realize that this power will purify the vessel, the personal self, always to be looked upon as a mere channel, that you are simply filling up the vessel that it may overflow to all, as a flower sheds abroad its perfume, and that if you are thus enabled to help others, it is not because of your personal attainments or power, but because of the power of the divine flowing through you, because you have become a center through which the lodge can work. Remember, therefore, that you must keep the channel pure and free from all contaminating influences, that as little as possible of your own personality shall enter into the good you are enabled to send forth. For a seed must be a healthy seed, or no matter how much of the divine force is poured into it, it will never grow. Indeed, if it has a canker, the divine force would but hasten its decay. It is often a help to stand before an open window, especially one facing the east. Raise your arms in front of you with fingers outstretched, and try to feel the force like a tangible thing which you can grasp. As you indraw the breath, clench your hands and draw toward your heart, as if it were hands full of force, and feel it permeating your whole body. Any action such as this will help you to realize that you are drawing in the divine life. Never under any circumstance perform this exercise when nervous, cross, or while holding any unkind or vindictive feeling in your heart, or the consequence will be disastrous, for you will be drawing to you more of the same forces. If this exercise is performed in the evening, it will be well to fix your gaze upon the stars in such a way as to exclude all sights of earth if possible. After a few short breaths, sit in an easy chair, always the same one in the same place if possible, or lie flat on your back with your arms outstretched in the form of a cross. Meditate a few moments and send up a strong aspiration of love. It should not even be a definite thought, but a great yearning for the divine, and a realization that you, in your higher self, are the master. And in the words of Malachi, "If I be a master, where is my fear?" Then sink into the silence. To acquire the ability to enter the silence properly will take time, for you'll find your mind fairly bombarded by thoughts, often of a trivial nature, which you must determinedly still. This may require weeks or months of practice, for as you silence thoughts on one stratum of consciousness, your mind will still be active, but in a more interior way. Merge into one sense thy senses, if thou wouldst be secure against the foe. 'Tis by that sense alone, which lies concealed within the hollow of thy brain, that the steep path which leadeth to thy master may be disclosed before thy soul's dim eye. Do not be discouraged. Have patience. Candidate as one who fears no failure, courts no success. When you find your mind wandering, bring it back, and if necessary, repeat, "Peace, be still." Often it is a help to repeat the word silence, or repeat your given name again and again. But when you have gained the power of silence, stop even these helps. Your mind must be like a still mountain lake, without a ripple, capable of perfectly reflecting every passing cloud. If the surface of the lake is agitated, even by a ripple, the images of its surface will be distorted. So it is with the mind. Only when you have attained to this quietude of mind can you hope to hear the voice of the silence without the intermixture of personality, and observe without distortion the heavenly images reflected in your brain from your Father in heaven. It is important that the student school himself to think definitely and clearly of the personal guidance of his higher self, his Father in heaven, who is the I am I, while the personality is but the servant. Should a student attempt to enter the silence with no definite idea as to whose voice he is listening for, who the master is upon, whom he is to fix his whole attention, and in a negative attitude, as so often happens, he is in great danger of receiving impressions from astral entities, either departed friends, elementals, or powerful but perverted entities, who would deliberately mislead and deceive him, and use him as a tool to further their own ends. For this reason, the attitude of soul that must always be held is one of deep humility and ardent, aspiring devotion to the divine. There must always be the positive expectation of entering the presence of the divine, of listening reverently for the voice of your Father in heaven. He that is of God heareth God's words. There must be a definite and fixed determination to listen to nothing else, and to permit nothing else to enter your aura. Have no fear, however, for fear, O disciple, kills the will and stays all action. The fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. Keep silent. If 2 or 3 are entering the silence together, let no one desire to be used as a spokesman for the rest, for the very desire opens a door for personality, and makes possible and easy delusions from the astral plane. Let each listen only for himself, not for another. If one should speak at such a time, let the others know well that if the message is true, and if they are in a state of mental poise, the endorsement will be given in their own hearts. This power of distinguishing intuitively between the true and the false is often the first conscious touch between you and your higher self. That the Lord, or the divine intelligence, does this guide humanity through the voice of the silence is amply testified to and plainly set forth in the Bible, both in the Old and New Testaments, as well as in all other sacred scriptures. Indeed, the Bible is full of allusions to those who listen to the voice and those who refuse to listen. As we said in a former chapter, the Bible is a symposium of allegories illustrating the spiritual truth needed by the entire fifth rays of the red ray. Hence, if is plainly stated, in language so familiar as to be almost trite, the children of God were led and directed by the voice in past ages. It is equally true today. For there has never been given to man any statement that would give him reason to believe that there had been a change in the laws of spiritual communication, or that the voice of the Master Jesus were no longer true. The voice of God speaks today to all who listen, as plainly as it spake to the pure in heart of old. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. When Jesus told his disciples to enter into the closet and shut the door, the closet referred to the silence, and the door with which they were to shut was the door of the mind. The Father, who seeth in secret, is the higher self, who does not require words, but who seeth in secret, that is, in the silence, through vibrations of love. The open reward is the peace, comfort, and spiritual upliftment which comes as the result of such communion with the Father in heaven.